McKnight tonight. McKnight tonight. McKnight tonight. McKnight tonight. Fun, insightful interviews from a washed-up producer with nothing to lose. McKnight tonight. McKnight tonight. McKnight tonight. Here comes McKnight tonight.
Welcome to McKnight Tonight. Here's Rob McKnight.
Hello and welcome to McKnight Tonight. I am Rob McKnight. It is Thursday, January 15, 2026. Guess what today is? It's National Hat Day. Actually, I should have thought to tip my hat to someone today, but I won't be doing that. So, but what you can do is take your hat off and join us for a tipple as we celebrate our first Tipsy Thursday for the year. And I've gone with a lovely red tonight. We really should get a sponsor for this segment, Amanda. I'm sure any alcoholic company would love to have Robbie as their ambassador for whatever drink they'd like to give us.
Cheers.
Cheers to you too, Amanda. What are you drinking tonight?
G&T.
Yeah. I know, because I made it for her. But before we get started, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed, hit the bell, and make sure you don't miss a show. And leave a comment, because I always read them and we put them up on this show throughout the program. So we will get to your feedback, and there's going to be a lot of feedback tonight, I'm sure. We have a big show coming up, and honestly, it doesn't get more serious than this. Tonight, a second federal law enforcement shooting in as many weeks rocks Minneapolis. Questions, outrage, and protests are already underway. Still in the US, and a bizarre geopolitical flashpoint in the Arctic as the US pushes for control of Greenland. Now, it's ramping up big time because this comes despite fierce resistance from its people, Denmark, and European allies. In Rob's Rant, the photo that has Australians laughing, crying, and asking whether we've actually lost the plot. And I'm pleased to say my special guest tonight is Matt White. He'll reveal all about his return to Channel 7, and I plan to take him on a trip down memory lane. Now to our top story tonight, a story that happened earlier this afternoon Australian time, but one which will keep developing overnight. Minneapolis is once again the scene of a tense and chaotic law enforcement incident involving federal immigration officers. On Wednesday evening, US time, Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents shot a man in the leg during an enforcement operation in North Minneapolis. The Department of Homeland Security said the shooting stemmed from a targeted traffic stop at around 6:50 p.m. local time, when an ICE agent was attempting to apprehend a Venezuelan national. According to DHS, the suspect fled on foot after crashing his vehicle, resisted arrest, and assaulted the officer. Two other people allegedly came out of a nearby apartment and attacked the agent with a snow shovel and a broom handle. Federal officials said the officer fired defensive shots and struck the man in the leg. Both the agent and the shot suspect were taken to hospital. Now, a crowd quickly gathered near the scene, and authorities used chemical irritants and crowd control measures as tensions rose. And tensions have escalated since word of the shooting has spread. These scenes you're seeing come from the hours after, as protesters and ICE officers face off against each other. And another video has come to light, which has been shared by a politician and shown on US news services. It purports to show the family of the man shot calling 911, and it looks to be real. And what you'll see is English subtitles translating what is being said.
Hace como media hora lo estaban tratando de chocar y llegó a la casa y como le cerramos la puerta le dispararon.
Agents, they were following my husband and they hit his vehicle and we closed the door of them and they shot.
Marica, me da miedo, asomarme la ventana.
Voy a decir algo. Si no hubiese ahorita nunca me hubiese agarrado. Ni que quiera. No hubiese pasado nada.
Y el carro,
Where the people
están aquí abajo afuera tratando de entrar a la casa. Por favor, necesitamos ayuda.
Que me pongas ahí para yo enseñarlo, para que venga a hacernos ayuda.
outside trying to enter the house when
Porfa, no
están afuera de la casa.
Sí, en este momento están afuera de la casa tratando de entrar.
Yes, I know they are outside the house.
¿Dónde para allá? ¿Dónde para el cuarto? ¿Dónde para el cuarto?
Están abriendo un carro. ¿Ese es el suyo?
¿Cuál?
Están abriendo un carro en la parte de atrás.
Sí, es el mío.
Mi marido también lo golpearon.
No, ese no es el mío. Llegaron varios patrullas. El teléfono que ven
¿Qué parte del cuerpo le dispararon a él?
En la pierna. Mira que dispararon una puerta.
This is a city on high alert. And the mayor came out, Jacob Frey, and he didn't hold back regarding how ICE is affecting his city.
There's still a lot that we don't know at this time, but what I can tell you for certain is that this is not sustainable. This is an impossible situation that our city is presently being put in. And at the same time, we are trying to find a way forward to keep people safe, to protect our neighbors, to maintain order. And we're in a position right now where we have residents that are asking the very limited number of police officers that we have to fight ICE agents on the street, to stand by their neighbors. We cannot be at a place right now in America where we have two governmental entities that are literally fighting one another. Why are we put in this position? We're put in this position because we have approximately 600 police officers in Minneapolis, far fewer that are able to work at any given time. And there are approximately 3,000 ICE agents in the area. 3,000. The 600 police officers that we have are charged on any given day with investigating crime, stopping homicides from taking place, preventing carjackings. That's the work of a police officer in a city. Meanwhile, we have ICE agents throughout our city and throughout our state who, along with Border Control, are creating chaos.
You can see there's a lot of emotion behind that. And that's a really interesting figure, isn't it? 600 police officers and 3,000 ICE agents have come into their city and more are on the way. Donald Trump, his government has said they're sending more ICE agents. They want to take control of this, but we just keep seeing these scenes. The city is protesting, and I'll get to why they're protesting and what we should think about it, or what I think about it in just a moment. It's worth noting this comes exactly 1 week after a federal immigration agent fatally shot 37-year-old Renee Good in Minneapolis. It was a separate incident that ignited protests, political backlash, and calls for an independent investigation. I've shown you this footage before, but the investigation seems to be happening. The only investigation seems to be happening against Good's wife, the lady you're about to see on the screen now. And no investigation is happening against the ICE agent. At the very least, whenever there is a fatal shooting, there should be an investigation against the officer involved, whether it's a police officer, whether it's an ICE agent. There are two separate rules here, and that seems to be one of the problems here. And that is the moment Renee Good lost her life. Minnesota leaders have demanded federal accountability, and legal and civil rights figures say this string of incident raises questions about ICE tactics and transparency, and they have a point. Now, I am all for following the rule of law. When I've seen people attack police officers, anyone who's watched this program, I will be on the side of the police. But respecting the rule of law is a two-way street. We respect our police officers because they respect the law. And that is the rule, the unwritten rule we have. The problem we have here with ICE is they're not respecting the rule of law. They're covering their face. There's no identification. They're not showing papers for their actions. They are literally, there's no signage. They are literally walking on the street and taking people. What's to stop a person dressing up as ICE and terrorizing people? And what's happening? The scenes we're seeing every day, people who don't have papers on them are being treated like criminals. It is like Nazi Germany with the Gestapo going through. ICE agents have to show a duty of care for the law. But what we're seeing here is that people are being trained before they're vetted. They can't even pass an open book test. The test to become an ICE agent is an open book test, and people are still failing it. You can literally look up the answers, and they can't even do that. There's no proper training here. This is why the police officers that are in Minneapolis and around the world have better training than these ICE agents. But these ICE agents have more power than police ever do. And they are backed up to the hilt. Whenever something happens, the Department of Homeland Security will not accept that ICE agents did anything wrong. There's no accountability. We will not admit a mistake was made, because mistakes will happen. An ICE agent will go too far. Whatever you think of what happened with Renee Good, it got out of control and there should be an investigation. But what happened? ICE went in, they've moved him, he is protected. Now, on one hand, I get the protection of ICE agents. They are doing a job and they shouldn't be doxxed, and people, because they don't like what ICE is doing, shouldn't be outing people and demanding civil disobedience and coming after them. But that's, again, a two-way street. The ICE agents have to be doing the right thing. And from everything I'm seeing, there's a lot going wrong, and a lot of times where I think these ICE agents are acting illegally. America has become a sad, sorry state of affairs. I don't like what I'm seeing in this country that I've always admired. Yes, I've always thought the guns are out of control, but this is next level. The Handmaid's Tale had it wrong. The Handmaid's Tale believed that America would become enclosed and would not go after anyone else. Well, America's now not only going after the world, which I'll get to in a moment, they're going after their own.
McKnight tonight. McKnight tonight. McKnight tonight. Here comes McKnight tonight.
Yeah, I needed a drink after that one. What about you? It's really sad what's happening in the US, but let me know your thoughts. Do you support ICE, the protesters, or do you think it's more complicated? YouTube.com/@McKnight is the place to go. MCKNIGHT. Let me know your thoughts. I will get to your feedback shortly. And don't forget, Matt White's coming up as well. But still on the US, let's talk about Greenland. The United States, led by President Donald Trump, is insisting Greenland is too strategically important to be left outside direct US control. Now, this is something Trump has been talking about a lot. Trump told reporters this week after talks in Washington that, and I quote, Greenland is very important for national security. And he warned that anything less than American control would be unacceptable. But Greenland's own leadership, they aren't having any of it. Have a listen. You'll have to read the subtitles from the Prime Minister, making his thoughts very clear.
Nu står vi med en geopolitisk krise, og hvis vi skal vælge mellem USA og Danmark her og nu, så vælger vi Danmark. Vi vælger NATO, vi vælger kongeriget Danmark, vi vælger EU. Men én ting skal alle forstå. Grønland vil ikke ejes af USA. Grønland vil ikke styres af USA. Grønland vil ikke være en del af USA. Vi vælger det Grønland, vi kender i dag, og som er en del af kongeriget Danmark.
I morgen der mødes Grønland og Danmark med USA. Vi kommer sammen, vi bliver sammen, og vi går sammen. Vi vil gerne dialogen, og vi vil gerne samarbejde. Vi søger ikke nogen konflikt, men vores budskab er klart. Grønland er ikke til salg. Det har vi gjort klart fra starten. Ligesom vi fra begyndelsen af alt det her har sagt til amerikanerne, at hvis det handler om sikkerhed, så er der meget mere, vi kan og skal gøre i fællesskab, og det vil vi også gentage på mødet i morgen. Det har ikke været nemt at stå op imod et helt uacceptabelt pres fra vores nærmeste allierede igennem en menneskealder, men meget tyder samtidig på, at det sværeste nu ligger.
It's certainly a very tough situation. Greenland's government also issued this unequivocal statement. Greenland is not for sale. You heard her say it there. As you can imagine, that did not impress Donald Trump.
On Greenland, sir, the premier of Greenland said today, we prefer to stay with Denmark. Do you see that as the final word? That? The premier of Greenland.
Well, that's their problem. That's their problem. I disagree with him. I don't know who he is, don't know anything about him, but that's going to be a big problem for him.
I disagree with him because I want it. It's your toy, but I want it. That's what Donald Trump is saying. European leaders from France to Germany to the UK have now jumped in, stressing Greenland belongs to its people and is not for sale. Denmark's Prime Minister has warned a forced shift to Greenland into US hands could tear apart NATO itself. You've got to remember, Denmark's part of NATO. NATO has a rule that if one is attacked, all is attacked. But what happens if one of NATO attacks another NATO member? That's it, it's done. Now, ordinary Greenlanders are watching nervously, unsure how a distant power grab might affect their culture, land, and their future. It's extraordinary to me that Donald Trump thinks he can just go and take this land. The US has full access. Military bases, they're there. They don't need anything from Greenland except the minerals and the resources. That's what this is all about. It's what happened in Venezuela. It's all about oil. And now that's what this is about here. Denmark and Greenland both stress self-determination and international law. Again, Greenland is not for sale. European nations are showing solidarity, which is fantastic, with Denmark. They're pushing back on US rhetoric, but it's hard. The Prime Minister is there. They're saying that they're trying to have dialogue with the US, but how do you have dialogue with a bully? They're rejecting claims about Chinese-Russian threats in the region. There's no proof of that. Now, this isn't the first time the US has tried to buy Greenland. The US has a long history of interest in the place. In 1946, the US offered to buy Greenland from Denmark for $100 million. That was shortly after World War II. Denmark refused. For when then President Donald Trump revived the idea in 2019 and again recently, discussing possible purchase or other ways to bring Greenland under US control. Has the US said Denmark has no claim to Greenland? Yes, they have. While there's no legal declaration from the US that Denmark has no claim under international law, we have heard government officials saying they think they own Greenland because a boat sailed there from Denmark 500 years ago. Well, that's exactly what happened with the US and every place that's been colonized. A boat sailed there and said, put their flag in and said, we own it now. Happened here in Australia. So Trump and his aides are suggesting the US should own Greenland for strategic regions, and they are pushing against Denmark's sovereignty. Denmark and Greenland have repeatedly called such talk unacceptable. There is no legal basis for the US taking over Greenland. Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark. Its sovereignty is recognised internationally. Annexing it would violate the UN Charter and basic principles of territorial integrity. Even US discussions of military options and internal brainstorming are not grounded in recognised legal justification. The US, as I said, already operates military infrastructure in Greenland. They have a key early warning and defence site, agreed with Denmark. There is no justification for trying to take over this place. Yep, Greenland is rich in minerals and rare earths critical for tech and defence and strategic Arctic positioning. So Donald Trump thinks now he can just take it. But a January 2025 poll found about 85% of Greenlanders oppose becoming part of the United States. Greenlandic political leaders have publicly declared sentiments like, we do not want to be Americans. We want to be Greenlanders. Even polling in the US now also shows low support for the acquisition and even less for military action. For example, one recent Reuters Ipsos poll found only 17% of Americans support Trump's push for acquisition and 71% oppose military force. But the big question I've got is how would NATO be affected if the US did invade? NATO, as I said, is built on a collective defence. But that framework, it assumes external aggression, not one member attacking another. NATO would be dead. Unity could be viewed as the end of the alliance. We are in uncharted territories. We're in dangerous territories. And I've got to say, I'm with the people of Greenland and Denmark. It is their territory. It is not Donald Trump's to be taken. How is he acting any differently to a dictator, to Russia invading Ukraine? If Donald Trump does the same to Greenland, he is no better than Russia. And we are heading down a scary path. Jeez, it's a bit heavy tonight, isn't it? Quick, grab a drink, everyone. Tits, bum. Wowzers. All right, if I haven't ranted enough, let's do this. Tonight, it's time for a reality check because a photo, this one sign posted in a Blue Mountains Park, it's gone viral and it's become a symbol of something much bigger. Now, the sign doesn't just ban dogs off leash and littering. It also bans, let me quote, if you can see it up there, any act that is likely to injure, endanger, obstruct, inconvenience, or annoy any person. Yes, if you annoy someone, you are subject to a fine. Annoy. A perfectly subjective, undefined, unenforceable word now enshrined in official council signage. My God, Amanda, I would be up for a fortune. I just walk down the street and I annoy people. Like, they're going to be like, McKnight's annoyed me. $100. Rangers would just be following me, see who I piss off. And people online, they are losing it. And it's not because they're anti-safety, because this feels like a cultural tipping point. Come on. We've gone from common sense rules to endless nanny state overreach. Along with the annoy rule, there've been councils shutting down a 13-year-old's cold drink stall over a bike parking violation. An Adelaide man hit with a $120,000 fine for making cheese in his backyard, and beloved swan boats being pulled from a lake over vague safety concerns. Now, some people are joking online. They're saying, sarcastically, all forms of fun are now illegal. And that's the part that's resonating. Because we Aussies, we used to pride ourselves on the laid-back culture, the she'll be right attitude. It wasn't just folklore, it was a lifestyle. How have we lost that? And it's funny, was it last night we talked about getting rid of councils, or was it Monday night? Monday. On Monday, we talked about getting rid of local councils, and when I see this shit, it just makes my resolve more determined that they need to go. Like, can you bring that photo up again, please, Amanda? I know questions up. No act that is likely to injure, sure, endanger, obstruct. Now, here we go, inconvenience or annoy any person. Bloody hell. That's what it's come to. I haven't even got I'm tired, Amanda. The world is just so stuffed. I haven't got the energy to rant. This is just getting ridiculous. Roll the sting. Amanda gave me the weirdest look when I did that. She's like, don't sleep on the show. I was making a point. All right, still plenty ahead in this edition of McKnight Tonight. Now, we've been talking seriously about ICE and the narratives and everything that's going on. There are some funny videos talking about the perspective of films from the point of view of the Department of Homeland Security, how they see them different to everyone else. And there's one that just made me laugh. So whatever your politics, I'm sure you'll be able to laugh at this. Put your politics to the side and have a laugh at our back-end quickie tonight. That's coming up. So is your feedback. And so is Mr. Matt White. Oh, I think we're going to have a bit of fun. Matty and I go back quite a while. quite a while, and we might take a trip down memory lane. But first, it's time for our random live shot of the day.
It's the random live shot of the day. Where are you going today? You'll never know where you'll end up with the random live shot of the day.
Yes, it's our random live shot of the day, and tonight, in fact, we're taking you to Melbourne. That is a live shot overlooking the Crown Casino and the Crown Tower, I suppose. Just over to the right, if I've got my bearings correct, there's Federation Square, and there's actually a camera we were going to have tonight of Federation Square, but it didn't come good. Melbourne is tomorrow, looking partly sunny, with a high of 22 degrees and a low of 17. A beautiful shot as nighttime hits Melbourne at 8:38 Queensland time, but 9:38 in Melbourne. A lovely time of night there. City's looking beautiful tonight, isn't it? Yeah, love Melbourne, love that city. I really, really do. All right, let's take a look at the feedback. Can I just get some new teeth? Let's take a look at some feedback coming through to McKnight Tonight. Jimmy says, at least we got to listen to the extended mix of the McKnight Tonight theme song while we waited for the show to start. I don't know what you're talking about, Jimmy. We were on time. I have no idea what you're talking about. I said we weren't going to talk about that, Jimmy. No. But we are a show from the garage, so there you go. Ginger Meg said, beard looks great, Rob. I wish I could grow a beard. It's probably going to go next week. I'm getting a lot of pressure from my youngest daughter. She refuses to give me a kiss on the cheek anymore because I've got the beard. Let's turn to the serious topics. Beck says, regarding US ICE, another autistic woman who I follow on TikTok had got into trouble with ICE because she did not get out of the car quick enough when she was on the way to the GP. Yep, and that is a problem, and that is one of the things they're not trained for. They're not trained for people who may have issues, who are disabled and things like that. They just are not getting the proper training. Over the page we go, and we've got this from Own You're Crazy. All Europe has to do is dump their American Treasury bonds, and the country goes into economic freedom freefall. Yeah, that's true, Own You're Crazy. That certainly would happen. So America better be very careful. Jeanette says, here Trump said, let's make America great. Somewhat. I think he needs to change this. He's not making America great, but he is getting very rich along the way. Jimbo Yellow Sock says, sad to see that the ICE officers have had more power than police officers, despite the very lack of training. And I think that is a major issue. It's the issue I keep coming back to. Thank you, Jimbo _Yellow_Sock. Own You're Crazy says, green cards aren't good enough to keep ICE from taking people away. They certainly are. There are no protections anymore, and we've seen people going in and getting caught up. Guy says, going into immigration to get their green cards and getting arrested by ICE. Guy says, that analysis was great, Rob. Thank you, Guy. I really appreciate that. Matthew says, if the USA invaded Greenland, NATO will help. So won't the USA be attacking itself? Yeah, somehow I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to see the end of NATO. Over the page we go. Beck says, my husband says NATO is like NATO attacking itself. I honestly want to understand the psychology of Trump so I can understand why he's doing it. I think he's a narcissist. I think he is basically thinking he's untouchable. Was it he or someone else that said Trump could shoot my wife in the face in front of me and I would still support him? How do you, someone actually said that. How do you not think you're invincible? Can you download this as a podcast? I was doing that. I might go back to doing that. It's on the McKnight podcast feed. Maybe McKnight goes on the podcast feed each week, but I haven't been putting McKnight Tonight, but maybe I should do that. Thank you for the tip. I'll start doing that next week. We've got this one from Own You're Crazy. I firmly believe Donald Trump is spreading America's resources a little thin. Don't you agree? Yes, I do. Venezuela is talking about going into Iran. He's going to attack Greenland, and he's got all these ICE officers at home. Yeah, I think he is spreading his resources a little thin. Matthew says, I think the world will turn against the USA if they take Greenland. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think we're really heading into uncharted territory. Over the page we go, and we've got this one from Radio Notes. Grab them by the Greenland. A famous take of Trump's old grab them by the... Jimmy finally says, Michael Moore had a doco Where to Invade Next in 2015. When is part 2 coming out, lol? Yeah, Jimmy, I think it will come out soon. All right, that's your feedback for the time being. We will get to more of it a little later, and we will be endeavouring to have a back-end quickie. But first, it's time for our feature interview of the night.
McKnight tonight. McKnight tonight. McKnight tonight. Here comes McKnight tonight.
Well, an unexpected announcement popped up in my inbox last week, with Channel 7 announcing broadcaster Matt White would be returning to the network. The release states White will front 7's expanded NRL coverage in 2026, serving as a key 7 News sport presenter, delivering authoritative analysis on the latest NRL news across bulletins nationwide each night. Well, I've worked with Matt on and off over the past 2 decades, and I thought it would be worth getting him on to pay a visit to McKnight Tonight so we can find out exactly what he'll be up to. Matthew White, welcome to McKnight Tonight.
Hello, Rob. Isn't it great to speak to you, mate? We go a long way back. I think it's time for you to come back to Channel 7 too and take control of the promos like you did way back when I first joined 7 in 2004. Is the weather getting cooler? Snooler. That was you. That was you.
That is true. Okay, I was going to hold this one for later, but I actually have the promo we made together when you first came to Channel 7. Okay.
Oh, my God.
You first came. And, of course, with all these things, it's usually the promo producer who gets to meet the new talent first before all the other people at the network, because we've got to make the promo. And I think you may have still been working at 10. I can't remember. But I remember we didn't get much time with you. We got a day with you in the city. And this is what we made.
Just like the rest of Sydney, Matthew White has made the switch to 7 News.
He's young, he's dynamic, he enjoys tremendous respect.
7 already do a fantastic job covering sport. If I can just add to that team, then I'll be really happy.
The new face of 7 Sport is Matthew White.
Matt's going to be a real asset.
I think Sydney needs a different look at sport.
Join the rest of Sydney and make the switch to 7 News with Ian Ross, Nuala Hafner, and on Monday, Matthew White.
Look at that fresh-faced young man.
Wow. That was at Hyde Park, Rob. Do you remember that? And you're right, I was still, I guess I can say it now, I was still working. I was still employed at Channel 10 at the time, because I literally had a walk out of 10, walk into 7 sort of crossover moment. And to be honest, 10 were really good about the way that it sort of finished there. They were very good about that. But I remember that day because we had a Live Eye truck at Hyde Park as like a background, and I did about 3 wardrobe changes in that Live Eye truck, sort of, getting a suit off and then getting the casual look. So you had me sitting by the tree there with the pigeons, and that was it. Yeah, it was a really strange day, but you know what that brings back for me in particular, and I know I started with the Nuala jingle, the Nuala Hafner jingle, which was just awesome, but seeing Roscoe's face there, it really strikes me, because it plays an important part in what I'm doing next and how I'm going about this return to Channel 7. Because Roscoe at that time was doing exactly the same at a different level, but he'd been off TV, he'd been out of media for some years. He was sitting up on the Gold Coast and he was having a wonderful life, and David Leckie brought him back, and then Leckie approached me to come to 7, and that was the start of the new news era out of Martin Place. But seeing Roscoe there, and I miss him so much, and he is a huge part, mate, of the inspiration of me returning to 7 and how I want to go about it.
Well, I want to get to that in a moment. One of the other little things about that promo is it was shot before the Martin Place newsroom had even opened, and there's a shot in there where you're outside it, and they've got all the banners up, and they hadn't actually moved in. Now you're returning to the newsroom, but it's a different newsroom in a different location because now Martin Place is closed down. This is how much time has spanned between that promo and now. You're returning to the 7 newsroom, but it's at Everleigh, about 15, 20 minutes away from Martin Place by car. What's it been like getting the call? A lot of people are being made redundant now. You're actually getting the call up, so that must be nice.
Yeah, I find it really interesting, that whole part of it. I mean, the media and the game that we play is so cyclical, right? And there's no doubt about it that it's been tough, and I've been in the middle of that. I've been made redundant. I've been searching for work. I've been doing other things. I've been in other parts of the media, and I continue to do other professional lives, so to speak. So the media game that you and I are talking about back in 2004 is very, very different to 2025. Very, very different. The whole landscape has completely changed, some for the better, some for the more challenging, some for the worse. And I think no matter what stage you're stepping in or out of your media role, especially when you're on air, there's going to be times where people are being made redundant and people are being hired. There's going to be times when certain parts of the industry are flying and certain parts aren't. That's just the game that we live in. It's a creative world, and creative worlds don't operate in a straight line. If they did, we'd all be jumping on the train. So it's interesting, but I do think also that part of the reason, mate, why I was attracted to this role and going back into the newsroom and back into 7 Sport, and I've been constantly in the media, so it's not like I'm stepping back into the media world, is that the location doesn't really matter. It did for Martin Place. There was a genuine need for 7 at that time to get away from Epping, to have a new look, new feel, new face, new culture. Visibility is a good one, yeah. And I remember having the chat initially with David Leckie, where the one thing that he wanted to hold on to when we were talking about me leaving Channel 10 and going to that position that we just showed was he wouldn't tell me about Martin Place. Right? He didn't tell me about Martin Place until the very end. And eventually he said to me, he told me about Roscoe. He told me about Martin Place. He told me that we were moving out of Epping. He told me that he wanted to change the culture of the place. And, he rattled off all these things in Leckie style, where you got to try and grab them all. And then he said, and you know what, we're going to have fun doing it. And I said to him, you had me at fun. And I feel that there's that going on at the moment too at 7. I don't like, Rob, hearing when you bump into people, whether it's 7, 9, 10 or in between, I don't like hearing colleagues and people that I know say, oh, mate, it's so hard in here at the moment. Money's tight, we're losing out, all that stuff. I don't like hearing that about our industry. What I like hearing is, okay, now we're going to go and have a crack to try and make this better and reintroduce that energy and fun.
Absolutely. So what exactly will you be doing at 7?
No idea.
Fair enough.
I'm hoping your promo will tell me. No, look, the role is a cross-platform role, and it will go across both 7 News and 7 Sport. 7 News in Sydney, in particular, will be my go-to destination every day. When I get back at the end of the week, for the first 3 weeks, Mel McLaughlin's taking some annual leave. She's been working like an absolute Trojan across the summer, so my arrival date is kind of perfect for that. So I'll be back at the news desk reading the 6 o'clock Sport.
And is it this Sunday you're back at the news desk?
Yeah, this Sunday. So for the first few weeks, we'll be doing that. And by then, footy season, NRL season will start to kick in. So there's a need and a desire from 7 News, and this is where the discussion started in Sydney in particular, to really expand that NRL content. And my role at SEN as the morning show host in Sydney SEN Radio for the last 5 years, mate, it's 90% rugby league. I mean, rugby league is airborne at the moment in terms of penetration, engagement, discussion. The old water cooler discussion topic that we used to say for ages, that lives and breathes in the wintertime in the NRL. Plus, we've got the Rugby League World Cup at the end of the season, so I'll be heavily involved in the hosting of that. And there's also more programming content to come that will also play a part in. So you can see it's a bit of a wide spectrum in terms of where I'll be positioned. Yeah.
Well, it seems to me, judging by the press release, Seven talking about supercharging its NRL coverage, I assume that means the network is going to make a big play for some of the rights, specifically State of Origin and possibly the grand final. Peter V'landys has openly said that they're open to splitting the rights. Seven have wanted that for years. So it seems to mean Seven are going to go in hard on State of Origin at very least, if not State of Origin and the grand final and the finals.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I really don't know what the executive management team are thinking, but I would suggest that given the position that we're in, we're one of 3 free-to-air commercial broadcasters, and sport plays a massive role in what Seven does and does very well. If it's not on the table, then they're not playing the game. It is absolutely going to be on the table. The question will be for me, and this is not speaking as a Channel 7 employee, this is speaking as somebody with 30-odd years experience and who lives and breathes this stuff analytically and professionally, is the interesting part for me is really going to be where the NRL lands with all of this. That's the side for me, Rob, because the NRL's got the opportunity, you've mentioned State of Origin and grand final. But the way that the media landscape has changed and the way that sports broadcasting has changed around the world is, why wouldn't the NRL perhaps pick out a Thursday night? What about one game here and one game there? A lot of sports rights, especially in Australia, are quite often just rolled over. Let's keep the same free-to-air broadcaster and the same subscription platform because it works, and it does work. I mean, Nine and Fox do an amazing job with their rugby league coverage, but that doesn't mean to say that there can't be other players in there. And Seven will hopefully be one of those players. Amazon might be one of those players.
Yeah.
Apple might be. God knows what's going to happen. So I think the real key to that question is, sure, that they'll be at the table. They'd be mad not to. But what does the table look like? What's going to be on the table when the NRL decides which way they're going to go?
Yeah, that's very, very true. Mate, we know you're a sport fanatic, you're a sports broadcaster, but you're also an all-rounder. People would forget, you were actually the host of Today Tonight, very successfully, I might add. You fronted breaking news coverage for me at Studio 10. What is your favourite part of broadcasting?
Gee, I'm looking at that. Holy cow, that's a while ago.
That was your final episode of Today Tonight, that last close-up? Yeah.
Okay. All right, there you go. That's interesting. I do remember I had a few beers at lunch. That's the only time that I had like 2 or 3 beers, and because I actually didn't think I was going to do that show that night. And then Craig McPherson said to me, we were having some lunch, and he said, "You know what, mate, just go and do it." I went, "Oh, okay."
Well, they weren't going to let you do your final episode.
No, absolutely. They were. Yeah, I didn't know whether I was sort of up for it.
Gotcha.
To be honest, it was a heck of a day, that one. So. But I'm glad I did. Look, I think, sports where I'm at, but when you go through, whether it's Today Tonight, hosting a royal wedding, an Olympics, Commonwealth Games, Formula One, commentary, Bathurst, news, Sunrise, studio, all that stuff, the project I've done it when I'm in my time at Channel 10.
Yeah.
There's one key component that goes through all of those, and it's live TV. And that's the part that attracts me to what I do and how I do it, because that comes with a performance aspect, but it also comes with the other stuff that I like, which is a whole heap of foundation building throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the year, right? So research and piecing together scripts and writing things, and then being on your toes and having to drag out information from the back of your head when a car crashes into the corner at turn 1 in a Formula One, so all of those things to me are different challenges, but there's one seamless link throughout the middle, which is live TV. And that old saying, you know, when that light goes on, it's a totally different rush. And I've missed it. I've missed it, Rob. I can tell you that much. You know, so I'm looking forward to getting back into it. Having said that, radio, you know, talkback radio. I was doing 600 hours of live talkback radio.
There is something
year.
about radio that I only discovered only a few years ago. I've produced and presented on radio. There's something magic about that.
Yeah, there's something. Magic's a good word, because that's kind of the way that it, you know, there's a structure to TV for many reasons, and there are plenty of layers. We've got some here right now, right? Think of what we're doing here. There's layers which involve a camera, which involve your studio, which involve, you know, audio.
My wife over there switching the whole thing.
Your wife, you know, the drinks that have to be delivered on a Thursday night, for all that stuff.
The tipsy Thursday, absolutely.
Cheers with the water.
Yeah.
Radio's got this magic about it, because you put your headphones on, you switch on the microphone, and bang, it happens, you know. And talkback radio's that on steroids, and there's no filter. One of the things that you'd appreciate is that when you go from, and I've done plenty of radio in my career, but when I went into the talkback radio side, you go from being, when you're a TV presenter, you go from delivering news and information and entertainment and all that stuff, and being a traffic cop, you know, making sure that you get to the breaks and all that. When you go into radio and talkback radio, sport, which is so passionate, it's a two-way conversation that's completely unfiltered. And that two-way conversation is something you've got to get used to. Imagine getting 1 million texts a day on anything that you start talking about, and then people ringing up and going at you straight away. That doesn't happen in the TV side, and it can be quite confronting, because in radio you kind of have to put yourself out there a bit.
Absolutely, and it's unfiltered.
You've got to wait for it to come back. Yeah. So
I mean, we get that here a bit on McKnight Tonight, because we have feedback coming in that we do live, and we react to what's going on, and a lot of it's good. But sometimes people will pull me up that I've done a crap interview or something like this. You know, you just mentioned a whole range of things you've done on live TV, but you haven't mentioned one of my favourite things you ever did, which I was the producer of, and that, of course, was the Nightcap. This was the very first show made specifically for digital television in Australia. People can't see your hands in your face at the moment.
God.
It was called The Nightcap. I was producing it. We didn't get to make a lot of episodes, but boy, it was fun, wasn't it?
It was awesome. It was really different. I haven't seen that since we've done it.
Roll the footage again, Amanda. Don't worry.
What year was this? I'm terrible with years.
Oh, it was either 2007, I think.
Okay. There's our man, Paul Murray, absolute lunatic. And Jess, of course, I've known for a long, long time. We were trying something different there. I think that was the key to it. And there's the shock. Monique's laughing.
But this was the precursor to Studio 10, to be honest.
Yeah, it was, I guess. And I remember, you know, we used to just walk into the studio down there at Martin Place, and we would do it before, correct me if I'm wrong, we'd do it before the late news would roll. And I remember there was a couple of times there we were goofing off like crazy and playing guitars and all, you know, thinking that we were David Letterman, and poor old Barthy was waiting to do a news update, and it was like,
I remember that specific incident. I think it was you and I, maybe a few people just on the set, and she's literally waiting off set. No one said to us, oh, we need to record an update. And we're like, of course we'll get off the set, because that set that you were on was actually the news set with all these pieces put over it. And even that background, this is the brilliance of television. That was a pre-recorded background, but we lit it up in the city. We actually paid for big lights to light up those back buildings and everything like that. So that back building over your head is actually lit by one of our lights that we went and placed on top of a building to do that. That was the fun stuff you could do back then. But it was so much fun to do that show. And I said it was a precursor to Studio 10, but it even included you doing a prank out on the plaza. The setup for this was simple. You were pretending to be doing a live cross. I don't know if you remember this.
Oh, yes. No, I do.
You were pretending to do a live cross to the US, and the Prime Minister hadn't turned up. So you were asking passerbys to pretend to be the PM. And look, I was just going to play a quick 20-second clip, but it's too good not to play the whole thing. So bear with me and let's take a trip down memory lane.
Well, I've got to do something really important to CNN. Mate, I need your help. I'm just about to go on air back to America. We've got a bit of a problem. We're just about to go live to air to a station in America, but I think they're going to speak to the Prime Minister. The bloody Prime Minister hasn't turned up. All right. Mate, they won't know the difference. Really important. Yeah, we're ready to go. Mate, just hang there. Just give... That's right. I've been lucky enough to be joined by the Prime Minister today. It's fantastic to have him here at such short notice. He's a very busy man. Prime Minister, thanks so much for your time.
No problems.
Say good day to our friends in America. Shep's on the line.
There you go, mate.
The Prime Minister has joined me today, and not only has he joined me, but he's got himself a nice umbrella. Prime Minister, thanks so much for your time. Jeez, it's coming down hard. This is good news for the drought, isn't it?
It sure is, mate. It might... What do I want to say?
Tell the American people what kind of country that you're going to bring us.
One of a kind.
What kind of differences are the main differences, if you like, between the American parliamentary system and the Australian parliamentary system?
I've got a clue.
Have you got any idea how the Australian parliamentary system works?
I think it's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, it's got to be good. You got voted in, didn't you? Well, I know what the population of Australia is, and of course, if there's one person who's going to know, it's the Prime Minister. What are we up to now, Prime Minister?
A lot of stuff.
In people-wise, in terms of population.
I wouldn't have a clue at the moment.
Yeah. The Prime Minister's staff have given us the ceremonial robe that he uses in office. Where do you actually wear this around, Prime Minister? I mean, do you wear it around the office in private or just at home?
No, I wear it to bed.
Good on you. Just tell us about what the significance of the robes are.
I could tell you, but I wouldn't have a famous idea how to express it.
The Americans want to see your tribal dance.
Oh, no.
Can you give us a quick...
No.
No,
it's 2007 or 8.
I don't know what goes on behind closed doors at the lodge there, but you know what we say, Shep? Beauty, mate, she's a ripper. Good on you, back to you.
Oh.
Do you think we got away with it?
The big chance of possibly no.
Talk about being put on the spot, mate.
You have just been night-capped. That wasn't for America, that was for the nightcap.
I thought there was something funny about that.
I'm voting for Craig.
I love that. You've been nightcap like that meant anything to anyone. We were on a digital channel. No one knew who we were.
I think I just made that saying up. I think that just came out. The classic part that gets me about that is how at the very start, before I do the cross, I do the old.
Yes,
like I'm waiting for the delay from CNN.
I don't know if you remember. I was in your ear pretending to be the American news anchor, so you had something to play off.
That's right. Oh.
What I love about that is we were asked to make this show for 7HD, and we were told the people watching 7HD were young men. That's how we had to aim the show, and we did. It was a very young male skewing show. Sky Leckie, you talked about David Leckie. Sky Leckie had digital TV because not many people had digital TV. She watched it and said, "This is crap." Shock horror, the nightcap did not appeal to a middle-aged older woman when it was skewing towards young men, and we were cancelled.
How long did we last, Rob?
10 episodes.
Oh, that's all right.
Oh, they were a fun 10 episodes, though.
Yeah. It was awesome. And that's, if you can't do things like that throughout your career, then, you're on this sort of static line that just goes through. I've never been one of those people that just wants to get there and read the news for 30 years. I mean, some people can, I can't. And when things like that come to you, what's the worst that can happen? You go, sure, I'll give it a go. So many people, when I took over Tonight, which I didn't see coming, so many people, even my family, were like, "Oh, congratulations!" As though that's what it was like. And are you enjoying it? I know the answer, and I'd go, "Yeah, I am." And the reason why I did it was because it was going to challenge me, and it was going to be different, and that's I guess that's the beauty of being able to do things like this, and them being able to do that crazy stuff and interviewing fake prime ministers out in Martin Place at the nightcap. That's where it's cool.
Well, mate, you are a true legend, and you are going to kick many goals at Channel 7. It's a no-brainer for them to get you back. I think it's brilliant. I've really enjoyed working with you over the past couple of decades, and it's a big cheers on a Tipsy Thursday to you, Matt White. Thanks for joining us on McKnight Tonight.
Straight back at you, mate. Thank you.
McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. Here comes McKnight Tonight.
He really is a legend, isn't he? He's such a nice guy. Thank you, Matt White, and thank you for he stuck around even though not that we had a delay officially. All right, let's wrap things up. Let's fit in a back end quickie.
It's time for a back end quickie.
We've had a lot of seriousness happening in the world, and obviously the shooting of Renee Good, it divided the world, especially America, but the world. And it all came down to politics. I did a big editorial on that on Monday night. And it really came down to how you viewed that situation was how you viewed your politics. And you will be, a lot of people were being asked by the Trump administration to see things in a different way to what they were actually seeing. Well, this has become some fodder on the internet. Now, whatever you believe, put your politics aside and just enjoy the way this is being portrayed, because there are people who believe Renee Good wasn't really doing anything wrong and was shot. Other people believe she hit the car. I want you her car hit the guy. Just put your politics aside and enjoy what they're doing with this. This is the story of the Lion King. But maybe the death of Mufasa should be viewed differently to how we viewed it in the past.
The prevailing narrative on the left is that he was murdered. This is not the case. I have reviewed the footage. He, in many ways, murdered himself. The way Mufasa is climbing is very aggressive. He's using his claws and scratching quite offensively at the wall. Scar watches this aggressive lion climbing up toward him, shouting at him, screaming aggressively. Still, Scar tries to save him. He puts his hands down, looks into Mufasa's face, and says, "Long live the king." He tries to pull him up. Mufasa falls backwards, dies. His own fault. I don't know how anybody could come to any other conclusion having watched that footage. Scar was just doing his job. A reasonable consequence for somebody moving towards you is their death. Mufasa was an extremist, believed in this circle of life, a very woke ideology. You gotta ask, did that contribute to his death? As far as I'm concerned, Scar is state sanctioned. So whatever he does, I'm gonna defend it. Even if there's evidence to the contrary, he's on my side, so I will go out and say that the truth is not the truth in order to uphold tyranny. If Mufasa wanted to live, he shouldn't have called it Pride Rock.
Come on, that's funny. All right, let's get some feedback coming through to McKnight Tonight. And we've got this one from Own Your Crazy Rob. You wouldn't be alive if you couldn't rant. So true, so true. It's how I'll live forever because I get it all out of my system. Gareth says, Matt White has such a lovely disposition. One of the few TV presenters who shows his genuine interest in sport on his face. So true, Gareth. I completely agree with that. Jimmy says, a great insight with Matt White interview, the ins and out of any TV career. Thank you, Jimmy. Appreciate that. We've got this one from Janelle. Loving the Matt White interview and do hope he's involved with Supercars telecasts. Welcome back, Matt. Well, if 7 have got them, it certainly will, I'm sure. We've got this one from Gareth. I can't believe Rob is the master of the is the weather getting cooler? Ask Nuala. That tune gets stuck in my head every time we heard it into autumn. Well, you know what's funny about that? I ask my family. I annoy them all the time because I just come up with songs. I'll say, Jasmine's off to get the puppy. You know, I'll do things like that. And anyway, I was working at promos at Channel 7 in Sydney, and I don't know how it came into me. Is the weather getting cooler? Ask Nuala. And it became this joke in the promo department. And then someone said, why don't we get some graphics made up? Why don't we get a singer? Why don't we do it? And I went, yeah, that's a good idea. So we did it. We didn't ask the newsroom. We just went and did it. And then I had to take it over to Martin Place. And it was a little bit scary because it was very, very different. I'm going to have to get the promo for people. And I'll play it on Monday if I can find it. And anyway, it's this animation of Nuala Hafner, who was the weather presenter, and she pops up, and it's all this cartoon, is the weather getting cooler? Ask Nuala. And she goes, Rrr. Anyway, I took it in to the executives at 7, expecting to get a bollocking. Peter Meakin loved it, and it was on the air. Once Peter Meakin loved it, everyone loved it. So it was fun times, fun times. Beck says, Rob, do you realise you were doing a non-verbal version of Talkback Radio right now? Yes, I do, Beck. Yes, I do. Own You're Crazy says, a panel show produced by Rob. How shocking. Yes, I love panel shows. This is what I live for. So sue me. Jimbo _yellow_sock says, the nightcap, a shame that was short-lived. Yeah, thank you, Jimbo. I love doing that show. It was one of my faves. Travis says, the Nightcap was a great TV show. Thank you, Travis. Appreciate that. Beck says, hi, Rob. Could you do anything that you did with Channel 9, YouTube live stream, but with the Nightcap, because this 31-year-old mistake. You know what? I've got every episode of the Nightcap somewhere on a DVD except episode 1, because a television executive wanted to see it. And I said, please don't lose this. It's my only copy. I said, oh, you can trust me. I never got it back. And I'm still bitter to this day. Matthew says, reminds me of a clip that I saw where John Howard, the actor, made an address to the nation, pretending to be John Howard, the Prime Minister. Very good. Jeanette with that clip says that was brilliant. Yeah, it was. Matt did a great job with that. And that brings us to the end of our feedback. And that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you. And I'm only going to mention it once. Thank you for bearing with us with the delay we had at the start. But I needed that clip. It was the one of the mayor, and I really needed to include that. So thank you for waiting with us as all that came through. We are back Monday at 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, right here at youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight. I am Rob McKnight, and it's good night from McKnight. See you next week.
Fun, insightful interviews from a washed-up producer with nothing to lose.